Long ago, before the secret war in Laos, there was a loving couple with 3 children. The father loved hunting and the mother would go to the garden every day. One day, at the garden, the father said to the mother,
Mai, ya te inu tu kutua la ni pa yon jakung na.
and she responded,
Oi hat chin jao la mo. Shi ku sa tia kat sa hai ti la na kai. Tia lo te tu chö mo che sa.
The father said back,
Ku la no sa. Tia shi ya mo inu ku chin ya la. Ni cha ne tu sa mo ku fo de de ya. Mo ku fo je de pelu che na.
Then a gush of wind blew by the couple. The wind blew the father's words to under a tree. Under that tree stood 2 bantong. They heard those words and giggled. Fast forward to a year later, the father fell sick, and he did not make it, so he passed away. The mother remembered the father's words and planned to bury him nearby, but she couldn't do it alone because he was too heavy and her kids were too small to help, so she left him inside their home for the moment. The oldest son was 10 years old. The mother asked the 2 little sons to watch the father in the house while she and her youngest child went outside to the corner to get some water. When the father heard that the mother was gone, he opened his eyes. The son saw flies flying on top of their dad, and he would lick the flies. He thought their eyes were just playing with them, but after giving it a better look, their dad was awake. The dad would smile with blood around his mouth and bloodshot eyes looking at his boys. The boys got scared and the younger son went to call for his mom. When their mom came back into the house, she asked him what's wrong. The boys did not know how to reply to their mother because she might not believe them, so they just told her that they were scared to be alone. The next day, the mother asked the 2 sons again to watch their father because they didn't have any more vegetables. She was going to the garden to go pick some cucumbers to eat, and she took her little girl with her. The mother told the boys,
Watch your fathers and don't let the flies fly over him too much.
and she left. When the father heard the mother had left, he opened his eyes again. He would lick the flies and smile scaredly to his sons. They were so frightened that they ran all the way to the garden to their mothers and told her what happened. She didn't believe them. She said that it was their father. He would never do anything like that to hurt or scare his own children. So that night, when they went to sleep, the father got up and walked around the house. The mother was so scared that she didn't know what to do. She knew that was not her husband anymore. Next following day, the mother had a plan. She kept all the children and herself in one bedroom. She tied the door so tight at the bottom, middle, and top. She told her boys that they're going to run away. She told them not to make any noise because the father might hear them. She cut a hole through the wall big enough for her and her children to escape, and the mother got out first. Her son handed the youngest out her next. She tied a dog to her back, and both the sons also got out. She held both of the boys' hands, and they ran over and never looked back. Night fell, and the father woke up. He went to knock on the door.
Con nè, khi có trong chỗ cũ con nè, khi có trong chỗ cũ có chuyện học cũ là con nè.
There was no response.
Con nè, ôi cha này chỉ khi có trong nè, ôi nhân dân này chỉ yêu này kia một lời lo.
The father somehow noticed that his family was no longer in the house. He screamed and ran after his family.
Con nè, nè, này một chỗ có tư là nè.
The mother ran past 2 hills already, but she still heard the father calling. She was so terrified because his voice was now a tiger, and ran all the way to her parents' house. She had told her parents about what had happened. They hid her and the children. Not long afterwards, the father came to her parents' house. He asked, Maya's brother was there and responded,
Ồ, giờ gì? Có tôi nói, có tôi thêm máy là. Cháu à, chỉ bỏ máy à, cháu máy một thứ lợ. Nếu mua lụt chỉ sẽ hậu lợ.
in which the husband replied, The brother noticed the brother-in-law was a tiger. Her parents said,
Vâng, đi lợi có chỉ một chế à. Như thế thì nó bỏ máy chữ nó chế máy lên hai cái này cho các lột chế này. Nó sợ này.
The tiger was so happy inside. The brother offered to pack him food and he left. Her parents discussed that they would not allow Mai to go return to him because he's a tiger now. They know that if she goes back, the tiger would devour Mai and all the children, and they will not let that happen. The next day, they sent messengers to the father's family to notify them that their son is already dead and what he was doing to his wife and children. They came up with a plan to get rid of him. They gathered up all the elders to the dead father's house. When the elders got there, they said,
Tu, thoát trở sợ nè. Biết tôi cho cái chuyện mình nhọt thế có tụi con đẻ nó lại. Thậu biết một chế ta, các bạn là khi có môn nè.
And so he didn't. But in a tiger's mind, he was waiting to eat up his family and was very excited. The elders tied his feet, hands, and head really tight so that he would not be able to get up. When the tiger heard that no one was in the house anymore, he heard little flickers and bright smells. He opened his eyes and there was a fire and smoke inside the house. He tried to get up, but he couldn't. The elders were outside and heard the tiger roaring nonstop. And that was the end of the father. My friend, we'll call him AJ, he told us this story about his aunt one time, and it was creepy as hell when he told us at the campfire. His aunt was around 80 years old and on her deathbed at home, just waiting for her time to pass. There was nothing the doctors could do anymore, so the family decided to take her home so that she could lay to rest at home. Their family took turns watching her overnight. On the fourth night, it was his turn. There was a chair about 3 feet away from the right side of the bed where the aunt sleeps, and they would sit there and keep watch of her along with a small TV just in front of her bed. AJ was somewhat scared when it was his turn to watch her because the lineage of his aunt's side of the family was known for turning into tiger spirits when they passed away back in Laos. The family acknowledged that the aunt could pass away at any time, so they prefixed some Hmong clothes on her beforehand to prepare for her parting. His uncle and cousins had to run some errands late that night to prepare for the worst, so he was by himself when they all left him around 10 p.m. AJ had the TV on, but his uncle told him to leave the volume off so that he could hear the beeper on the life support if her time had come to pass while he was watching her. AJ sat there for about an hour when he thought he saw his aunt sit up. AJ thought,
What the hell?
He turned to look at her, but saw nothing. His aunt was just laying there motionless with the hissing of the oxygen tank slowly pumping up and down. 5 minutes later, AJ saw his aunt sit up again. And again, he turned to look at her, but only saw her laying there on her bed. Nothing. AJ thought that it was just the glare from the TV that was making him see things at the corner of his eyes. When the third time, he saw her sit up again, but gnawing her teeth and smiling while sitting up this time. He got spooked, so he got up and ran and turned on all the light switches he could find in the hallway and living room. He came back to check on her, and sure enough, his aunt was just laying there. AJ got a cold sweat, as if someone had dropped an ice cube down the back of your shirt from the neck down, and he thought that his aunt might be turning into a tiger ghost. Standing at his aunt's doorway, watching her lay there, he got really scared at the thought and ran down the hallway to call his uncle to hurry and come back. AJ was too scared to stay in his aunt's room, so he went to the living room as he waited for his uncle and cousins to return. He sat on the couch in the living room and waited, but left the door to the aunt's bedroom wide open with the lights on. From the living room through the hallway, he could see the top half of his aunt's body laying down in the monitor next to her. So he decided to sit in the living room and wait instead. He saw his aunt make a movement twitching her upper body, so he glared down and saw her sit up. She turned his direction and smiled at him. She gave him a smirk with her hands and fingers curled up like she was imitating a tiger and smiled. AJ froze in fear because at this point, he was shaking so much that his body wouldn't respond to his own mind to look away or run. He didn't know how long he sat there, but before he knew it, his uncle was shaking him loose from his daze.
AJ.
His uncle yelled with a few slaps to the cheek. AJ snapped out of it with his eyes full of tears and started murmuring that he saw his aunt smirking and smiling at him. His uncle went to the kitchen and got a white string and immediately tied it to his wrist, whispering some magic. His uncle then went to the house altar, lit up some incense, and whispered some words at the altar. The next day, his aunt passed away. AJ was prohibited to attend the funeral or go to his uncle's house for a month after the burial. It took him almost 6 months to build up enough courage and finally visit that house that his aunt had passed away in. Hmong people have legends saying that some people have a history of becoming a tiger when they die. One of my aunts have a history of being tiger-like when she died. My parents came to the USA 2 decades ago with my grandma, uncle, and his wife and kids. My aunt got really sick. She couldn't walk and was bedridden for a few months. One day, my aunt had a cat-like tail growing on the back of her tailbone, 2 horns growing on her forehead. There would be cats everywhere around their apartment complex. Cats would be making cat cries all night long. One day, my aunt got a major seizure attack. Her eyes rolled back and they turned white. My aunt would do that for a few seconds and come back to being normal. But she did seem to be in pain after she had her seizures. My aunt started laughing and pointing at walls in the corner of the room, saying, There. My mom said that she was very terrified seeing Auntie turn into a tiger. My mom says that there'll be days my aunt will eat food and put her tongue out very long and say,
So good.
My dad said that one day Auntie was having many seizure attacks, so he had to put his arm inside of her mouth so that she wouldn't bite her tongue to choke herself. And when doing so, she was biting my dad's arm like a mad dog. My uncle and the elders got a hold of her, and she let go of my dad's arm. My dad said that the bite was terrifying and strong. He felt a lot of pain, but at least he helped my aunt from choking, and she lived a few more days. The very night before my aunt died, many, and I mean many cats cried outside the apartment. My aunt was also making cat cries and kept meowing. When my uncle tried to talk to her, my aunt would say,
If I get free, I'll eat each and every one of you.
Mom said that my aunt was turning more and more into a tiger the night she passed away, but my uncle and the elders had to use ropes to tie her down. It was a sad thing to do, but if they didn't tie her down, she could hurt anyone. My mother told me that Auntie kept licking her tongue and rolling her eyes wide and making meowing sounds. My aunt fought long and hard to get freed, and she kept talking about how if she got out, she would eat us all. Everyone was so scared that they held her down even tighter until she let go of her last breath. When my aunt was about to take the last breath, my mom said that there were cat cries in each and every corner of the room, but they didn't see any cats anywhere. When she took her last breath, she was confirmed to be dead. The whole place was silent, no more cat cries. My mom said that my cousins may one day end up like their mother, a tiger.
Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I'm still working on that series, so keep an eye out if you're interested. I just thought I'd upload something for my loyal subscribers who watch all my videos. You guys are the best. Speaking of which, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also leave a comment. It really helps with the algorithm. Remember, leave a comment. Anyways, I will catch you all next time. Have a good one.